Happy Easter and welcome to our Behind the Music edition of Daily Hope. I'm Kristen Holton Prouty, and it's always a pleasure to get to share a few moments with you discussing what makes music meaningful in worship, but especially this weekend as we celebrate the joyous Easter that we've been anticipating all through Lent. Ever since I've been playing the organ for church, the number one requested postlude for Easter is Widor's Toccata, the Toccata. Everybody knows it, everybody loves it, everybody wants it. I know it's a favorite also for weddings. Our own Pastor Steve had it at his wedding, and I actually learned it for the first time for a friend's wedding. So it's a very joyous, ceremonial, exciting piece of music. The composer, the French composer Charles-Marie Widor, was a child prodigy. He held his first church position when he was only 11. And by the time he was 25, he had the most prestigious position in all of France. He was the organist at Sulpice in Paris, a position that he held for 64 years. So yes, he started it young and he was there for a very long time. Not only was he at the most prominent post, but he also was organist at what was the largest, the grandest organ at that time, a clavicle instrument, and it was just enormous. And he used that instrument to compose these great works for organ. Before the Industrial Revolution and the readily available use of electricity, organs had to be powered by manpower. They had bellows, and you would either pull straps to kind of pump them back and forth, or you might use your feet if it was a small organ, or there were even large ones where you would, many people would have to step and pump them. The larger the organ, the more people that you would need to power them. So you couldn't just run in and practice if you needed to. You had to have as many people as it would take to provide wind to go through the pipes of the instrument. But then along came electricity. Suddenly you just turn a switch, the electricity would power the bellows, and voila, you could play the organ. And also around the same time period, mid-1800s into the 1800s, Industrial Revolution, we were making things en masse. Suddenly you could produce lots and lots of pipes, and so builders began making these organs that were larger and larger and larger, and composers in turn started composing music that would fit these larger instruments. And Widor was one of these people. He was sitting at the clavicle organ in Saint-Sulpice, and he had an instrument with 101 stops and almost 7,000 pipes. So comparison here, we have 42 stops, so not quite half as many stops, and 2,790 pipes. So substantially smaller. Even though we have a large instrument, compared to the instrument that Widor had, this is nothing, a third the size or something like that. So he had this large instrument at his disposal, and everything was becoming bigger and grander. The Romantic period, more is better. That was their philosophy, kind of. And so he wrote 10 grand organ symphonies. He wanted to show that one person at a gorgeous instrument could replace essentially a whole orchestra. Obviously, he didn't want to replace it. He also wrote music for orchestra and things, but he wanted to show that this instrument was capable of that. And so what we call the Toccata is actually the final movement of his fifth organ symphony. And so the whole symphony itself, if you were to play it, takes about 40 minutes. This movement is only 6 or 7, depending on who's playing it and how much caffeine they've had that day. The title, Toccata, is from the Italian word toccare, which means to touch. And there's a lot of touching that takes place in this piece. So it begins with the right hand is doing this very fast kind of running passages, and the left hand has a rhythmic figure. Let me play it for you. Like that. Very fast, very quick, very light. And then it goes, and there's a section where it alternates between the right hand having the running passages and the left hand having the rhythmic. Then it gives the rhythmic to the right hand and running to the left. So it kind of breaks it up a little bit for you. Now the left hand. And switches. so on and so forth, back and forth like this. So both hands get a turn to do this running passage and the rhythmic figure. It's very exciting. But my favorite part, and maybe yours too if you love this piece, is the first time the pedal enters. Now, remember he's got this grand organ, bigger, longer pipes than we have here, but we're going to use everything that we have, pulling out all the stops, so to speak. And then the pedal enters, and he's using a 2-octave range. He's trying to reach as much of the compass of the pedal board as he can. So here we go. Remember that? Bum, ba, bum, ba, bum. It's such a grand time. I've had the opportunity to hear this performed at Sulpice in Paris, and it's just an amazing experience to be in that gorgeous church and hear this ginormous organ playing this piece. It's really moving, but it's also fun to play on any organ that you have, and I hope this weekend when you come or when you listen online that you'll also enjoy it. So this week, as we celebrate Easter, I know you might be busy with family or friends or whatever your traditions might be, but I hope you take a minute and think about how it's because of his sacrifice. It's because of Jesus coming here to earth that we no longer have to use our own manpower. We don't have to pump our own bellows. We don't have to be down there in the dark just pumping away. We, because of him, get to focus on making the music, and that's what Easter is all about. He came so that we can live. Happy Easter.